One of the most common arguments against the Bible sounds serious at first. It goes like this: we don't have the original manuscripts of the Bible. All we have are copies of copies. So how can we possibly know what it originally said? You'll hear this from skeptics, from atheists, and sometimes from people quoting well-known scholars like Bart Ehrman. But here's the problem. If this argument were true, it wouldn't just undermine the Bible. It would undermine almost everything we know about ancient history. Let's be fair about the claim. It's true. We do not possess the original handwritten manuscripts of the New Testament. The originals were written on materials that decay over time. What we have today are copies made by scribes. From that, critics argue, the text could have changed drastically. We can't be confident about what the authors actually wrote. At first glance, that sounds reasonable, until we apply the same standard everywhere else. Here's the key question. Do we have the original manuscripts of any ancient work? The answer is no. We don't have Plato's original writings, the original histories of Josephus, the original works of Tacitus, the original texts of Thucydides. Every one of these survives only through copies. Yet historians are remarkably confident about what these authors wrote. Why? Because of textual criticism, the process of comparing all surviving manuscripts to reconstruct the original text with high accuracy. If we reject the Bible because we lack the originals, consistency demands we reject most of ancient history as well. Very few skeptics are willing to go that far. Now here's where the New Testament stands apart. Not because it's sacred, but because of the evidence. The New Testament has over 5,500 Greek manuscripts, more than 15,000 manuscripts in other ancient languages, dozens of manuscripts within a few centuries of the originals, a complete New Testament within roughly 300 years. Compare that to other ancient works. Plato's earliest complete copies come over 1,000 years later. Homer's Iliad has its earliest full manuscript nearly 1,800 years later. By normal historical standards, the New Testament is extremely well attested. At this point, critics often raise another objection. There are hundreds of thousands of textual variants. That sounds alarming, until you understand why it happens. Here's the truth. More manuscripts equals more variants. If you have 20,000 manuscripts, each with a handful of small differences, you will end up with a large total number of variants. But most variants are spelling mistakes, word order changes, obvious scribal slips, things that are easily identified and corrected. Ironically, a text with very few manuscripts and no variants is less secure, because there's nothing to compare it against. Do any core Christian doctrines depend on disputed passages? The answer is no. Less than a fraction of 1% of variants even make it into footnotes in modern Bibles. And no essential belief about Jesus, salvation, or Christian morality depends on a single uncertain verse. The same teachings appear repeatedly in undisputed passages. Even scholars critical of Christianity acknowledge this point. Another misconception is that the first few centuries were a textual free-for-all. They weren't. Early manuscripts show remarkably high agreement. The text stabilized very early. The early church guarded it carefully. Even if all manuscripts disappeared, the New Testament could be largely reconstructed from the church fathers' quotations alone. The Bible invites examination, and when examined honestly, it stands on solid ground. If this helped, please like and subscribe.